Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world watching this. Although I imagine that there's probably a handful of people that are watching this. But still, whoever is watching this or does watch this, I hope you enjoy it. So today I want to talk a little bit about censorship and how things are steadily getting, in my opinion, seem to be getting worse. It does seem to me that every year that goes by is becoming more and more censored. Things are getting to such an extent of restriction that it's quite frightening, really. I think that as we're like YouTube, and I'm sure that over time that YouTube become it's already becoming unpopular, but I think over the next couple of years it's going to become it's only going to become those that it's only going to be used really by those that are making gaining some kind of financial income from it, and for the odd video here and there. But I think eventually there'll be so much stuff that's that'll be taken down, and it won't just be YouTube. It'll be Facebook. I mean, we've already seen it happening over the last couple of years, at least the last 5 years. But of course, censorship has been happening for all history. But digital censorship has really sort of been getting quite draconian, really, in the last 5 to 10 years. Certainly the last 5. The headquarters, Google, are obviously have some kind of an agenda that's going on here. There's obviously some influences or some financial influences, some connections. People are whoever is helping to, or whoever is investing or influencing financially in Google are obviously having some kind of a say, I guess anyway, about how they want to see these platforms laid out. I guess they want to have some influence over what people can do and what people can see, what people can say. You started to see it with things like memes and parodies. So elements of religious criticism, political criticism, or even political support. I mean, we only have to look at what's been happening with Trump. So really, this video is going to be a little bit about politics, but it's mostly going to be about censorship. So I'm really sorry about this plain, just really rather annoying, obnoxious noise that's going to happen every 2 minutes or something. There's nothing I can do about it. It's just something I just have to live with. So I wish I could censor that. But yeah, so obviously YouTube's one of the big ones, and Facebook's probably Facebook actually is probably been the worst the worst affected by this whole censorship movement. This whole so-called social justice movement has done unbelievable damage. Has had so much influence, bad influence over social media. And that I'm afraid to say, and I think it's going to continue. I think we're heading towards we're already more or less there, but I think we're heading towards digital communism, digital fascism, I think. I don't think these types of regimes, these types of political dogmas and dangerous ideologies, they never really go away. They're just kind of they morph into, they evolve, I guess, and they take opportunities when and where they can. And I think that's what's happening now. Online is, and of course, everybody to some extent is playing a role in that process. Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to be seen now. It's sort of it's just kind of like the cultural, global, well, not global so much, but in the Western world at least, it's sort of this thing of, there's just been this craze of attention seeking and just playing out your identity, playing out your sort of idealized, preferred self or something online or whatever it is. That's been happening over the last 10, 15 years. And of course, that's one of the reasons why people, and me included, jumped on the bandwagon of Facebook and Twitter. And I would probably say I'm not quite as addicted to social media as I used to be. I mean, I'm using YouTube to make videos, but I certainly don't use Facebook as much as I used to. It's been infiltrated to such an extent that it's just kind of just not really. I mean, apart from obviously using it, which was kind of what it was supposed to be about anyway, was to connect with people, your family, your friends, whatever. It's just now. It just seems to become about a soapbox. It's more of a. It's become, and I've played that. I'm not exempt from it. I've played my part in as well. So I've rambled and ranted and argued about all sorts of different things, about feminism, about the state of politics, sort of ever-increasing authoritarian state in England, the European Union and so forth. I've typed quite a number of posts that who knows what will happen in the future. One day you might just get a letter or a knock on the door from somebody. We've looked through your Facebook posts and we've found something that we deem to be insensitive or racist, because that's the new. It's the new form of. It's basically the whole racist game now. This whole thing of branding people as quickly as you can as a racist, as Islamophobic, or as transphobic, or whatever it is, anything that's got phobic on the end of it, even though it's nothing to do with some irrational fear. It's just you perhaps having a different opinion. You criticizing to some extent, or you just don't believe in it. So what? That's your opinion. You don't agree with something. You don't like it. As long as you're not hurting anybody, you're not calling for violence. And so what? That's your opinion. That's fuck everybody else. That's your right. That's your right to your views. At least it used to be. It used to be. But now we're the European Union to some extent has played a role in this, having passed some recent legislation now that's it's just making it's trying to prevent creative, funny, content from being allowed to be created. It's or if you do, or maybe not completely, but there will be well, at the very least there'll be consequences if you do so. It's just, I think we're just living in a very dangerous digital world now. That is something it's scary. I mean, it's certainly in England. Obviously, I can't talk about political landscape in all over the world because I have not travelled and I don't follow politics of global politics as such. I only really follow things that are obviously happening in my own country or within Europe. I mean, of course, I sometimes read about different things in different countries. But I think overall, on the more or less on a global consciousness level, the sort of the political hostility that's happened and is still happening in America and within the European Union and between European countries now, and obviously now with sort of the relationship with India and China, and obviously Russia as well, is something that's on, at least people to some extent are interested in. That kind of thing is on their minds to some extent, or has been. Censorship eventually censorship will affect everybody, and that includes the people that call for it. We've all seen what happens when you suppress people's rights, or people's opportunities to express their views, regardless of how distasteful or unfavourable they might be, or just even if they're just not particularly nice. I think it's important that people have their views and have their say, because it's important to be able to debate people. It's important to be able to have conversation with people. Once you start throwing, prison sentences for saying this on Twitter or that, or banning people even from these platforms, I think it's at that point that those people that do have extreme views can turn around and justify it, and that's what some of these people that call for censorship or oppression of others' views don't get, is that by doing that you are the source of the problem. In fact, you're one of the reasons why those things are happening or being allowed to continue, because those people don't have anywhere else to go. At least if it's online, it can be seen. It's something. Sometimes it's better it's obvious in some ways. It's better to see the evil than to ignore it or pretend that it's not there. We can't continue down this road. I think it's going to be disastrous. We're already seeing this. And democracy to some extent is also, or what is supposed to be democracy, is to some extent part of the problem. It's to some extent part of the solution as well. I think it's going to have to be a case of new platforms are going to have to be built, and I think to some extent they're going to have to be paid for. I think that anything that's supposedly free is obviously vulnerable to the free for the people that use it. Obviously not free for the people that keep it alive or even brought it into existence. Those people, there's always a catch. There's always an agenda, is what I'm trying to say here. Nothing is ever free. There's always something somewhere in the contract. There's some sort of like digital, but invisible digital contract, or some sort of unspoken rules about what you can and can't say now. And I mean, it's become so full of anger now. That social media is just so full of, and there's a lot of shallow people on there as well. Just full of people with just really overblown egos. People that think that they're just very self-absorbed. People that think they have to take themselves far too seriously, and people that just that just enjoy the attention of being arrogant and just trying to just constantly be on the lookout for drama. You know, it's I didn't really start getting to Facebook and stuff for all of that stuff. Although I've played out my own dramas online to some extent over the years, but I never intended to do that. So I'm like I said, I'm not free from, you know, human nature in any way. I'm just as bad, and I understand that I've played my part in the sort of development of censorship over the years. The political landscape in sort of political and cultural landscape in Britain now is so sour. It's so destructive. It's so regressive. I don't know what's going to happen over there. I'm, like I've said in another video, I'm actually in Asia at the moment. Part of the reason for that is because of how things are going in England, and I just dislike what's happening over there. I just don't like the direction in which the country's going in. And maybe you could turn around and say to me, well, why don't you change it? Why don't you do something about it if you don't like it? And maybe you're right. You know, maybe I should do that. But that's why I think it's. I just want to say this before I go. Really, I don't want to make these videos too long. One of the reasons because it takes forever to upload them, but two is because I just kind of like bite-sized videos. Really, I think if you talk too much about serious subjects, it become monotonous and rather boring, tedious very quickly. So I try to keep it about 20 minutes. I think what's been allowed to happen in the West is incompetence for the sake of, you know, allowing incompetence to flourish for the sake of trying not to be insensitive, of trying not to be seen as intimidating or bullying or being deemed as extreme in some strange manner or something. The political system in England is beyond, in my opinion, it's beyond repair, and I think it's just time that something new came along. Democracy, to some extent, I think has worked to a certain degree, but it's just not good enough. That's the truth of it. But then again, what's the alternative? I think some kind of new system needs to be put in place, and that applies to different countries across the world. But of course, every country has its own very, very different systems of law and, you know, economies and everything like that. So, of course, something that works for one country might not necessarily work for another. But certainly, I think it's important to have freedom, but I think it's important to have responsible freedom, and I think that's kind of. It's nice that people, millions of people across the globe, have the opportunity to get online and to study, to learn, but I think to an extent there was always going to be a breaking point, and an element of irresponsibility with that. And there's always going to be groups of people that are bigots and true bigots, people that have just got their own agenda going on and are just trying to push their own thing. And it's a difficult situation. It's obviously going to require a difficult but needed solution to stop. There's a difference between censorship of genuine, extreme, you know, obviously horrible, nasty hatred things that people say, and just censorship for the sake of being deemed as liberal or left or whatever it is, as sort of progressive student or a progressive, internet citizen or whatever. I don't know, but it's got to stop. It's got to change. You only have to look at people like Tommy Robinson, for example, in England, that to see how the censorship has affected him, and it's just a very, very, very dangerous game. I don't know exactly what the solution is, but something has to be done, and it has to be done quickly. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. So thank you very much for watching this, and I'll check in again, and I hope you'll check in again with me in the next video. Thank you very much. Bye bye.